So let's talk about these new targets for immigration in Canada being announced by the minister, Minister Miller. What do you make of the targets, and how do you think this is going to sit with Canadians right now?
Well, I think it's going to be curious to see if there's any diminution in the targets, because what we've clearly seen is that the aggressive elevation of targets, 485,000 due to be invited in next year, and that's not even counting 800,000, nearly a million foreign students. So, we're really, really opening the doors wide, and it's causing a bunch of stresses as all the supports for placement, settlement, integration in the job market, and of course, housing haven't kept pace with that aggressive set of targets. And that's what the minister's strategy acknowledged yesterday. Said, look, the federal government, the provincial governments, municipalities, we have to have some kind of integrated plan. It's ridiculous that it doesn't exist. We have to better align with the job market, make certain that we're picking people that are filling the jobs that we need. And we got to do a better job of helping people when they arrive. The question, of course, is, will the numbers fall? Will they ease off the pedal any? And secondly, is there going to be money to support those objectives? Because trying to put in place those programs, those supports, it don't come free.
And do you think, following a couple of surveys, and you're in downtown Toronto and you see people on the streets, refugees who arrived here, they have nowhere to go. Do you think this is the right time? How does the government address those concerns of Canadians right now who are saying, we can't properly house people?
Yeah. Well, when you're in government, you're always bouncing between the twin poles of politics and policy. What's the right thing to do from a policy perspective, and how does it play politically? Right now, the politics and the policy of this file are pointing in the same direction. They've got to find a way to make the immigration system work better. The pressures on housing, the pressures on our social infrastructure in downtowns across major cities, all across the country. These things are screaming out for the obvious fact that we've got to do a better job of welcoming people, integrating people, and locating them once they're here. And so, I'm not surprised when you see those numbers. Here's the other pure and important part about the politics of it. It used to be that if you had hesitations around immigration, you were a bigot, right? That's what you were really saying. Say, I just don't want newcomers. They take our jobs, they soak up our social services, all that kind of ugly stuff. Now what's happening is they're introducing into it real hesitations where people are saying, listen, I'm not against having people come to the country. I'm anxious about whether or not we're doing enough to support them when they arrive. And if we're not, then maybe we need to back off on it. That's where they're at now. This is really starting to bite the government politically. And frankly, the bigotry will resurge if we don't do a better job of integrating folks here and providing them with a place to be. Because as those stresses increase, you'll get a bunch of xenophobic conduct.
Let's turn now to the carbon tax. The Prime Minister said he wouldn't be allowing any more exemptions. What is your view of how the Prime Minister has handled this issue since he made that announcement for Maritimers last week? And we have seen other provinces speaking out. Where do you see the pitfalls here, or perhaps the pluses for the Prime Minister and the way this is being dealt with?
Well, I can be damned if I see any political advantages here. I'll tell you right now, this thing is a blizzard of chaos and confusion. If you're going to institute a set of exemptions for home heating, then like when you were preparing that decision as a government, you knew sure as the sun was coming up the next day that there would be demands from other parts of the country because home heating oil is overwhelmingly concentrated in Atlantic Canada. That's what motivated the decision, the collapse of political support for the government in Atlantic Canada. So as soon as you make that adjustment of home heating oil, you're going to get demands for other sources of heating. You're going to get demands around natural gas, around electricity. So now you see premiers in British Columbia, Ontario, all across the country. It was predictable. And to say, sorry, we're going to do it solely for this region, in effect, and not for others, introduces a set of national tensions that were already existing, Fed-Prov tensions that were already existing around this. Plus, you've undermined the logic of the carbon tax. If you're going to stick by the carbon tax, then your argument has to be that it's integral and it's inviolate. It cannot be harmed and altered in any fashion in the pursuit of the climate program policies. Well, if it can be amended for one chunk of the country, then it can be amended for other purposes. I think the government is going to find itself forced to make other carve-outs. I think it's going to find itself forced by degrees to walk away from its own carbon tax. And I don't understand why it wants to be dragged toward that. If it's inevitable it ends up there, then it ought to embrace it and walk toward that goal line now.
And it gives Pierre Poilievre the opportunity to do what, Scott?
Whack him over the head with a cricket bat, day in and day out, axe attacks. Now the government's going to get the worst of all possible worlds. Imagine you're in Atlantic Canada, right? When did the Liberal support begin to really nosedive? It began in Atlantic Canada in the summer when the carbon tax was applied at the pumps. Okay, so now you got home heating oil. You know with winter coming, it's going to be that much worse. So you make this exemption. Now the Liberals would be able to say what? That we got rid of the carbon tax? No, they're not willing to say that. They're not willing to say that. So Pierre Poilievre will still be able to hammer the Liberals and say they are sticking by the carbon tax, but the Liberals won't be able to argue that they've done anything about it. They'll only face all the criticism of other parts of the country, other people who heat their homes in other fashions, all that political grief. So they're getting none of the gain. They're getting all of the discredit, and they leave Pierre Poilievre wide open to say, nothing about this makes any sense. This is no longer a coherent policy to combat climate. It obviously, if it can be altered in one part of the country, then it can be altered elsewhere. The government is in real trouble on this. I can't imagine how they could have walked into this trap without seeing that it was going to be sprung. And the hell of it is they sprung it on themselves.
Scott Reid, he's our political commentator here at CTV. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you.